I couldn't wait. Hey, it's Romania Black. No, I watched volume 30. I read volume 35 a few days ago, and I can't wait. I can't do it. No, I was like, as soon as volume 35 ended, I was like, oh, you're joking. So I'm sorry I'm wearing my glasses. I had to take my contacts out, and so there is a glare, but hopefully y'all can see my expressions fine to know that I couldn't wait. So I'm blind as a bat without these, so I'm gonna have to need them to wear it to read, but Kusanagi. So volume 35, we got back in the act, back in the saddle again, in the words of Aerosmith, and we got things set up. South Kai, there's gonna potentially be a war. Nyan, she tried to get Soo-won to help her claim the power of the dragons, and Soo-won was like, no thanks. And so she has the Crimson Sickness as well. She's ran into Hawk. I'm sure she's going to tell Hawk all about the Crimson Sickness, and I was like, I need to read this volume. And then Yona, meanwhile, she's trying to like support Soo-won. Her and Hawk made out. It was glorious. I'm like, I am just like on cloud 9. But I agree with a lot of you in your comments. We talked about it with volume 35. And some of you are just now in the Discord starting out Yona the Dawn, but I don't want Soo-won to die. I really don't. I was very apprehensive of Soo-won at the start of this series, I will admit, and I wasn't crazy about him because I didn't know his motivations. And I just couldn't read him. And then once you figure out everything, you're like, oh no, this boy needs a hug and needs to cry. He needs to grieve and he needs support. And he's trying to resist all that and think he can do it on his own. Like protagonists in other series have done that we won't speak of. But the funny thing about Soo-won is he's not the protagonist. He's technically the antagonist. So it's curious that I feel like a lot of us form this connection with this character, and I've formed this connection with this character, that I want him to get support and help, and I feel like Hawk and Yona can support and help him. Yona's there. Yona's like ready to go. She's like, it's all in the past. We can't live by that. We gotta move. She's like, sees the whole picture. She like has the foresight, but Hawk's not there yet. And even Yona doesn't know how Hawk's gonna react. So we've still got a ways to go. So as far as this volume goes, we're going to read volume 36. And then that will give me, because after this, I am going to wait. I'm recording this so early. It's only like September 14th when I'm recording this. We've still got till October 4th, like 3 weeks away, is when volume 37 is going to come out on, the English translation will come out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. And I've been reading these through Amazon, is what I've been reading it through. But what I'm going to do is that this week, we're going to have volume 36. Next week, I got a surprise for you. It's a little OVA. It's something I've wanted to watch for like a year, and I have no clue what it's about, but it's been on the back burner for like a year, and so I'm going to watch it for next week. It's a BL thing, so if you like BL, it's going to be a BL thing. And then the following week, we'll do volume 37, the English translation, because I want to support Kusanagi the most I can, and then we'll talk about what we're doing after that. So next week we will have a hiatus, but I figured that will give me time to catch up on the comments from volume 35, as well as this volume and the volumes that appear on YouTube. So that'll give me some time to go through everybody's comments, and then when we get to volume 37, hopefully, if anybody's comments stand out and seem worth talking about, I'll be able to bring them up then. But yeah, so I couldn't wait though. I just couldn't. I sat down tonight, I was like, I had other shows wrote down that I was like, oh, I could watch this and that, and I was like, I really want to see Manga the Dawn volume 36 because I want to avoid spoilers, and you can't end on a cliffhanger like that and not want to watch it. So read it. So those of you that had to wait, y'all have my sympathy, my deepest sympathy, because So yeah, I don't know. She seems, Nyan is interesting, and she has lots of connections with Soo-won that we talked about in the last volume, and I'm really curious to see how this whole South Kai thing is going to go, if they're actually going to wage war on them or not, how it's going to work with they're after her, she's escaped from the jail cell, how's that going to work with Hawk, is she going to let Hawk out? I don't know. So yeah, let's find out. Let's find out, shall we? We are going to start volume 36 and just see where it takes us. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I don't think this volume could have gone any differently than how it went here. I was like, what? ZENO, King ZENO, and Meinyan and she might like Val, and what, Chagol's unsurprising. Not surprised about him at all. But the Hawk fan service, and then Yona and him, and I'm just, what is happening? This volume went, like, I had expectations. I was like, okay, she's going to tell Hawk about the Crimson Sickness. No, not really. Hawk kind of knows that Soo-won's in trouble. I figured Hawk and Soo-won would talk. No, Kusanagi is dragging out that conversation with Hawk as long as she can. She's just going to drag it out. She's going to make us wait and suffer. I need to go back and look up who the hell Calgon is. Was he Calgon in Yona of the Dawn? I was like, where did we have him? When was he in this? He was a small boy in the Kai Empire. Oh, that kid, the one that looks like Hawk. Yes, he was from way back in like chapter 95. That was like almost 100 or so chapters ago. I forgot about him. He looked like Hawk. He was the kid that Kijun carried on his back. Okay. The Kai kid that got taken in. Okay. That all makes sense now, because I was like, Calgon. For a split second, I was like, is this a secret brother of Hawk? I was like, no, I forgot who Calgon was. I was like, that name sounds so familiar. But that was from chapter 95, which we're on chapter like 200 and something. So it's been a while. It's been about 100 chapters. Oh my gosh. Kusanagi just randomly bringing up this character 100 chapters later, being like, he's going to cause Gunte to get injured. So, this whole thing with Yona is fascinating. Especially in regards to Soo-won, because I'm like, Soo-won, what we doing? What's going on? What we doing? I'm waiting. Again, I thought so many things would happen. I thought that we'd see Soo-won's conversation with King Il. Not bringing that up yet. That's getting hidden in the wings. But lots of things happen in this volume. It's really sad. I'll talk about the cover in a second. It's really sad that the opening picture is Soo-won and Ki-shook and Min-soo in the library, and we see Soo-won in the library reading up on everything. The cover makes more sense now, seeing Hawk and Yoon going to get the Sinju herb together, even though ZENO knows it's not going to work. We're going to talk about that. So yeah, we got so much Hawk fan service in this volume. Kusanagi, if you are a Hawk fan, then volumes 35 and 36, you have ate well, my friends, because Kusanagi is just like, I know that these last couple volumes have been rough, so what if I just gave you a lot of Hawk fan service? Would you guys be okay with that? And I am. And we are, right? So, God, the conversation with Meinyan did not go as I anticipated. She's not really, like, she comments about his muscles, and she's like, but her comment is not sexual at all. She's just like, wow, he's really muscular. He might be of use. She doesn't seem like she's infatuated with him at all. It's rather interesting. So I'm going to put Meinyan over here. She's a cool character. She's so interesting because last volume she seemed so venomous. But here there's a different side to her, right? Because yeah, she does have there's a side to her that's like she's venomous. She's venomous, but also she is kind to Ho. She is ambitious. She is skilled in combat. And she's not easily manipulated. And she cares for Ho, and that's pretty much it, but is willing to do anything for her cause. So in a lot of ways, like Hawk Yoon makes note that she's kind of like Yona, where she cuts her hair. But honestly, I think her cutting her hair is about the only similarity she has with Yona. That's really, she reminds me more of Soo-won than anything. I mean, all of these things, like Soo-won had a bite to him, right? Soo-won has a bite to him, but he can be kind. He's ambitious and he's skilled in combat, but he's not easily manipulated. And the people that he cares for, he's willing to do anything for. So in a lot of ways, she resembles Soo-won more than anything. But in that same token, I was thinking that she'd want to like take Hawk all for herself, but no, that's not the case. She's not interested in Hawk, which, girl, this man in front of you, granted he's all dirty, but interesting. So I love that Hawk is like, nah, I'm not leaving, I'm fine. Which I didn't think he would leave because Yona told him to stay. And he's like, if Hawk is, if anything, he will do anything Yona says. And what I like about this volume is that they distinguish that she has a seductive voice and a normal voice, right? She has her concubine, she has her lady voice, and she has a general voice. And so they sound different. And I like the Hawk's like, why are you sounding different? What's up? So it makes sense now why in the last volume, I put Venomous up there, but why in the last volume she sounded, because she was putting on a front. She was putting on a facade in front of Yona and the others. That all makes more sense now that it was a facade, and how she actually is different, right? So she talks about being fine and everything, and she says they're clearly going to kill you. And I love the Hawk is like, there were only 4 guards? Really? I like the Hawk's like, they really weren't that, they knew I wasn't going to leave, huh? And I like that she says, if Soo-won decides to kill someone, that's that. Even if it's a relative or a woman. And he says, are you related to Soo-won? And she says, of course not. Which is a bold-faced lie. But Hawk's face where he's like, yeah, no, Soo-won hasn't hesitated to kill anybody. I had a good cough drop. I would have a coughing fit there. But yeah, she makes the comment about Soo-won not being, merciful in any way. And Hawk doesn't really say no. He doesn't disagree with her. But he's not mad like he normally is. And so he talks about knowing where the palace garden is. And when he says, I've been there many times, he thinks of being there with Soo-won and Yona. So I'm going to put Hawk up here. I'm going to put just Hawk. Because Hawk is kind of like, we've established Hawk is kind of like a mystery box. Like, what is he thinking about Soo-won and all of this? And what's going on? And we don't really get inside Hawk's mind throughout this. But we know that when he associates the garden, he thinks of the 3 of them. He thinks of the 3 of them. He won't leave the cell to put Yona in danger. Which makes a lot of sense. As soon as she was like, oh, come with me, I was like, no. But then Meinyan, she's like, she has her attack and says, why am I doomed to die wherever I go? And so, and Hawk looks like he wants to help her. I do like that look that he gives her in, it's on page 12 of the volume, where he gives her a look like he wants to help her, because that's just how Hawk is. He's just he's a noble person, and he wants to help somebody that's in trouble, much like you. And so I like that Kusanagi draws her in all white. She's just this beautiful white. It's a nice stark contrast to Hawk, who's in all black. It's really nice. And she's like, isn't there someone you want to see? And he's like, there is, desperately. But if I obey my emotions, she'll try to protect me. So Hawk's like, I'm tired of her trying to protect me. That's not what this is about. I'm going to stay here until she comes back. And I like that. And he's like, I decided to wait here and not cause her trouble. And Meinyan's like, who are you? What is going on? And so she leaves him with the cell door open. Now, again, I think that Hawk staying, it's acted as good faith to Kishuk, right? Because Kishuk was like, okay, well, Hawk didn't leave when he had the chance to, so he's not going to do anything while Yona's here at the palace. There we go. And so she's trying to find her way in the garden. She's finding her way to the garden to look for Ho. That's why she went to the garden. Okay, I was like, why was she trying to go back? It was to find Ho, because Ho got hit off the branch. That makes sense. And then that's why she has the headache, and that's when Yoon finds her. She stumbles into Yoon, and he finds her. Of course. I'm going to be honest. I kind of ship Yoon and her. A little bit. I kind of do. Just a wee bit. And so meanwhile, they have Ho there. And so they tell Yona about what's been going on. She's like, Hawk's been working out. They tell her that he didn't leave his cell. And I like that she's like, did he try to escape? And they're like, no, he stayed there. And so she's like, oh, it'll be fine. And I love that Jaeha has to tease her. He's like, I wonder why her cell door was open. And did she talk to Hawk? Was she doing anything untoward? And Yona's like, untoward. And I love that Zeno's like, don't go down that path in front of the young lady. Don't be teasing her about Hawk. And then I like that Minsu's like, well, wait a minute. There were rumors that Meinyan tried to seduce her guards. And Jaeha's like, she was going after Hawk. And I love that Yona's like, you're mistaken. I love it. I love that Yona's like, Hawk wouldn't do that to me. It's so cute. And you're absolutely right. He wouldn't. So yeah. So everybody, everybody wants Yoon, apparently. They all want Yoon. Our boy Yoon here. Oh, Yoon. He was asked to be a medic on the front lines by the one guy. They're like, you could be a medic on the front lines. And he's like, I really don't want to do that. And then he's like the medic for Meinyan. And then he becomes Min-soo's assistant, which that part did not surprise me because I was like, okay, well, I was waiting for Min-soo to be like, okay, you and I are going to go after the Sinju herb. I was waiting for that. And then he was sent with Hawk to get this herb because they're the least likely to be suspected of anything from me by an Awa. So yeah. But yeah. There's just something about Meinyan and Yoon. I don't know how to describe it. But just the idea of like him helping her and him being like, it's okay. And she's like, who are you? And the idea of he gives her the dumpling soup. I'm like, and she's suspicious of him. I don't know. And then she eats it and it's all fine. There's just something about it. I'm like, no, I kind of like it. It's so simple and cute, right? But she's like been the concubine to an emperor. And then Yoon, of all people, the little town medic, is the one that woos her unsuspectingly. I kind of like it. I kind of want it. I want Yoon and Meinyan. I think that would be really adorable. But old Val here, old fan service Val, he's doing one of my favorite anime tropes, and it's guy with really tan skin and super bright white hair. I love that trope in anime. Zaraya Maru, she's a yaoi author. She does that with some of her characters. Mwah. I love that. I just like that type. And Val looks like, he's like, what a wonderfully wild princess she is. And Val's like, uh-huh. So Meinyan is interesting because she says that she was raised by boys. She was raised with boys as a general. She reminds me a bit like Corrin from Shing. She has that same vibe where she's like a tough woman. But she's clearly a better swordsman than Corrin because even Hawk's like, she's the best swordswoman he's ever seen. And they're like, better not tell Yona, she'll be trying to practice. I'm like, I guess that's another similarity she has with Yona is the combat element, but Yona's more with a bow than a sword. So I like this chapter 206, discarded one by one. Interesting. Chagol looks like an asshole. That's the best way to describe him. I don't like Chagol at all. I especially didn't like Chagol with the whole insistence that she possibly was physically abused by him. Really didn't like him at that point. But Chagol is our emperor. He is the emperor of, just says Emperor of South Kai. There we go. Emperor of South Kai. He's the bald head and has like a phoenix. He has a phoenix on his head, which is curious because you have your mythical creatures, you have dragons, and you have phoenixes. I wonder if the divine lake of Suika is tied to a phoenix. I wonder if that's kind of their special animal there. That would be interesting. Tie that to the Crimson Dragon. Interesting. But yeah, but Chagol, he's the emperor. He's kind of an asshole. I don't like him. I'm sure if Kusanagi has some... I don't know, though. If Kusanagi has some sad backstory, though, I don't think he'd show her, like, beating up a Meinyan. I could be wrong, though. But Shanti is his first consort, his first wife, right? So Shanti is his first consort. And she kind of has the same thing going on like Quelbo's wife did, where she's not really fond of Meinyan. I guess that's another similarity to Yona. Interesting. So yeah, you have that. You have Shanti. She's like, she doesn't have any kind words to say about Meinyan. And she suggests that Meinyan went and is sleeping with Soo-won, which, I mean, if you're doing like the whole Game of Thrones royal gossip train, I guess that would be something to assume. But Chagol, he seems like he's possibly like mad about that. But Val seems so pure. He seems like not to think of it. And at first, whenever the one guy, Hitan, was talking about, he's like, is it true that Meinyan, or Lady Meinyan, at first I was like, well, does she sleep with Val and Hitan? Is she like, worked her way around and up the ladder? But no, that's not it at all. She was a general. So Hitan, being a general, he would know her firsthand from fighting in battle with her. So that's why he knows her on a first name basis. the same with Val. They care about her, but it's not really like a sexual or romantic thing. They're friends from the battlefield and they know each other that way. So that's why he refers to her like that at first. And so she clearly, I feel like she likes Val because she teases him and he gets all frustrated. I feel like it's they have kind of like a Soo-won and Hawk relationship. If we're going to compare Meinyan with Soo-won and Val, we're going to throw Val over here. Val seems like he might have been maybe a childhood friend of Meinyan. Maybe. Go put MY here. Maybe a childhood friend. Maybe he likes Meinyan. He kind of denies it, but I'm like, I get Hawk vibes with Val, and I get Soo-won vibes with Meinyan. So it's Kusanagi's hetero ship answer to the Hawk and Soo-won ship. There we go. Makes sense. And I think it's no coincidence that we have Val with the white hair and the tan skin in the one shot, and then right below it we have Hawk with the dark hair and the pale skin in the next shot. I don't think that's coincidence. I think it's pretty intentional. But yeah, so they want Hawk to go capture Meinyan, and they're like, she has secret information, and Hawk's like, you guys really just need to tell me at this point, because why are you keeping this a secret? And Kishuk refuses to tell him. And he's like, you have to tell me if you're going to let me out. And he's like, nope. So yeah, so Meinyan wakes up, she finds a sword, and then she sees the guards coming out, and she thinks, okay, well, the guards are looking for a woman with long hair. I'll just cut my hair and run off. Yoon knows that it's her. He's like, why'd you cut your hair off? And she goes, the guards didn't even recognize me. That's another reason why I kind of ship them a little bit, is because the guards, they only saw surface level her looks, and Yoon, he saw her for more than that and saw beyond her hair. I was like, I really ship them. I really do. But yeah, he helps her. She's looking for Ho. And then she's like, oh, are we going to wash together? And he's like, no, of course not. And so he gets the partition up for her. But the thing of it is, like Yoon's got some blushing going on. I'm like, Yoon, because Yoon's what, 15 or 16? We're assuming she's in her 20s. So, I mean, Yoon's still pretty young, but I'm like, did Yoon have a crush on her? Maybe. He's not had blushy faces for anybody other than her. I'm just saying, Yoon has not. And he makes a comment that he's felt awkward since she said that. And so he's like grinding the medicinal herbs. And she's like, are we bathing with each other? No, I'll pass. He's like, for some reason, it makes me think of when I first met Yona. And he insists that she's his patient and he's going to keep her safe. I love it. And then Judo's with Hawk, though. Okay, can we talk about the fact that Judo and Hawk walked to where Yoon is? That must have been the most awkward conversation in the world. Like, I imagine they said nothing. I imagine Judo and Hawk said not a word. Nope. I imagine nothing went down. But that's just like, that's the most wild thing. Like, in hindsight, I'm like, wait, Hawk and Judo came together to where Yoon is. What? That just blows my mind. I'm like, how does that even work? But yeah, she lunges out of the bath, attacks Judo, and girl can wield a sword, and she can wield like the whole thing, the candle holder, everything. Poor Judo, our eternal bachelor, fighting her, and then Hawk's like, I got this. But she's still too injured to do anything. I love Hawk just grabbing Yoon and keeping him safe. And so she's like, how'd you get out of the dungeon? And he's like, well, it's a long story, but... And so I love that Yoon stands up to keep them from fighting her. And Yoon is like, she's my patient. You can't kill her. And Judo's like, well, she killed our soldiers. She doesn't deserve pity. And Yoon's like, I don't care. He's like, yeah, it's not right that she killed somebody, but I bet she did it for a reason. I bet she didn't want to die. He's like, I dislike violence. He's like, so I'm going to be selfish and tell you no. And he's like, I'm here to study medicine. My job is to heal people, not kill them. So yeah, I love that Yoon, he basically protects, look at this. He protects Meinyan. And he kind of like stops the cycle. He stops the cycle of violence. And I'm going to get rid of that marker. He stops the cycle of violence. Being like, you can take her and apprehend her, but we're not killing her here. Nope. I love that. Like, good on you, Yoon. Way to go, bud. He's like, I came here because I want to heal people, and that means everything to me. And Hawk's like, yes. So yeah, I'm with everybody in the afterwards. It was the image of Jeha there. It kind of did look a little bit like he shook a little bit. I was a little confused for a second, like, oh, but the bangs give it away that it's Jeha. Jeha has those bangs. So, but anyway, so they end up taking her back to the palace and they end up locking her up, but they don't put her in a cell. And so Hawk does have a reaction to finding out about the Crimson Sickness. And Judo's like, oh no, everyone knows. But Hawk and Yoon aren't telling anybody. And then Minsu comes in because he overheard. That shot of Minsu's kind of chilling where he's just standing there outside waiting and Judo about like slammed him with the door. And so Minsu asks Yoon to be his assistant. He asks him to be his assistant, and he's like, this will save your life. This will save you from getting investigated and interrogated if you agree to it. He's like, I've been tasked to find a cure for Soo-won, and if you can help me, that'll just, it's the only option that we really have at this point. And Yoon's like, fine, I'll do it. He's like, only if I can treat Meinyan too. And I'm like, good on you, Yoon. Look at you. And so meanwhile, Soo-won is like pouring through all of the data and all of everything. And I'm glad he read the journal. So we're going to put Soo-won over here. So Soo-won, I'm going to make note that he read his mother's journal. Now, the question is, has he read King Ill's reply letter? I don't think he has. I don't think he's read the reply because Yona put it back in the bookmark and kind of hid it away. I don't think that Soo-won has read the reply letter from Ill yet. I don't think he has. I think he's only been reading his mother's journal, which is a start. It's a start. He's getting caught up to where Yona is. Good. But I don't think he's seen King Ill's response letter yet. I'm going to be curious if in volumes 37 or 38, if we find out if he goes back to that journal and he opens the bookmark and sees the letter, if him reading that will lead to him questioning that night he killed Ill and things will click for Soo-won. I'm waiting for that, but we haven't got there yet. So I'm just waiting for that to all come back for us, right? And so Minsu, this part here, where he says, can Lord Hawk accompany Yoon as his guard? And they explain all the reasons why. And Soo-won's like, I doubt Hawk would fetch medicine for me. And then we don't see Soo-won's face when Minsu says he's already agreed. Like so. Hawk's agreed to help. Hawk agreed to help Yoon. And that conversation that Yoon said about Meinyan, he's like, I want to heal people. I'm tired of violence. I'm tired of people dying needlessly and unnecessarily. I want to heal people. And I feel like Hawk at that moment was like, Soo-won dying this way is not right. So I'm going to help you. And he does care about Hawk, right? But here's the thing about Soo-won. Soo-won thinks that Yona and Hawk will never forgive him and hate him. He's fully convinced they hate him. But the truth is, he's starting to realize that they still care for him. Against all odds, they still care for him. And Soo-won does not know how to process that. Because he's like, everything I've done, they should hate me. And they should want me to die. And they should despise me. But the fact that Hawk went to go get medicine for him, the fact that Yona's been supporting him, I don't think Soo-won knows how to process that. I think he's like, I'm a monster that's irredeemable and to them. And so for them to still care for him, I don't think Soo-won knows what to do with that. And I think he's like, what do I do with that? How do I process it? What do I do with it? So it's curious to see that we don't get to see his face. It's so frustrating that we don't get to see his face. It's like, And so, but yeah, I love it. I'm going to take a screenshot of that page there. So yeah, so Hawk's like, all right, she was a great swordswoman, Meinyan was, as they're watching her. And I love that Yoon's like, don't tell Yona this, she'll start trying to train too. And he's like, no. And so then she hears that he's the Thunder Beast. And she says that she asks if he belongs to Yona. And he's like, I guess so. So there's that. And she tells him that she wanted to take everything for herself. And he's like, I hope you'll listen to the person who's desperately trying to cure your condition. Hawk's like, you need to take a step back. It's going to be fine. And then when she says this about Yoon, she says, even if I die, I'll always think of you as the person who saved my life. I as much as I want Val and Meinyan to get back together, there's a part of me that's like, Yoon, girl. There's part of me that's like, just wants her and Yoon to be together. I don't know. I'm going to crack ship it. I don't know if anybody ships Yoon and Meinyan, but I'm going to be the first. I kind of ship them a wee bit. And so Hawk again, he's like, Yona's fine. She's got the dragons. She's okay. She's in the palace. And Yoon's like, are you trying to be my bodyguard? And he says he'd like to split into 3 people. And I thought, of course, 3 people does not include one to watch over Soo-won. Of course it doesn't yet. It doesn't. He's not split into the 4th person yet. But he said he wanted to split into 3 people. One to like watch over him, Yoon. One to watch over the dragons and make sure that they're kept alive. And one to keep Her Highness from crying. It's a lot. I love it. And I love that Yoon's like, they'd all go to Yona. And he's like, stop. Which is true. Yoon's like, no, they're all going to you. But Yona, jumping from that building, girl, you could have broke a leg. I love that everybody's like, Yona, quit leaping off of buildings. And she's like, I did it. And Hawk, I love that Hawk was like ready to catch her. And she totally missed. I absolutely love it. He's like, quit imitating Jae-ha. It's just, Hawk is going to gain so many gray hairs from you, girl. It's wonderful. She's like, I was in a rush and I couldn't help myself. I love it. It's it's very, very cute. But yeah, so she's like, there's no need. All 3 of you should stay with Yoon. And Hawk's like, what? And she asks him to please take care of Yoon. And he says, I understand, my mistress. And so meanwhile, you have these 2 fools that are in love because he's like, I wanted to tell her that I missed her. And she goes, Hawk, don't lower your head. I can't tell him I want to see his face. She's getting to the point where he's not a bodyguard anymore. She's getting to the point where he's getting to be something different than that. She's like, you're no longer my bodyguard. I don't need that. I love that Hawk is slowly transforming into something that's not just her bodyguard or her personal guard. It's someone that she loves. And so she's like, you don't have to bow down to me, sir. Not if you're going to be a future king, you don't. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that because I'm very curious about Soo-won's answer to that, right? But anyway, and then Yoon figures out who Ho is. He's like, oh, Ho is that one. And she's named because she says Ho. And so it's also, I don't know, it's kind of funny that the concubine squirrel is named Ho. I know that's not what it's supposed to mean for Japanese. It's just, as an English person, it's really on the nose. And I'm like, oh, her squirrel's name's Ho. I'm awful. I'm the worst. I am the actual worst. So chapter 208, some of these chapter titles have like the most somber names. Like chapter 208 is Fear of Never Waking Up. And I like that she tried to seduce Judo, and it didn't work. Judo is asexual. He just doesn't want to be with anybody. He'd rather you all leave him alone about it. Just let him be, right? But Yona goes to give Ho back to her, and Ho's so cute. I love that shot of PQ and Ho together, and Ho's just like, I feel like Ho is based off of one of Kusanagi's cats, and that especially like the little, like I think it's based off Pal. It looks like the way that its movements and everything's are. It's really cute. But here's the thing, like she's really kind to Ho, and she wants to touch PQ. Like she just likes cute cuddly things. Kind of like Algira. A little bit. It reminded me a little bit of Algira. But yeah, she's like, thank you. She just wants to like cuddle with the squirrels. It's really, really cute. So yeah, so the fire and water tribes are all arriving, and they're getting there, and they're going to invade South Kai soon. I do love that Meinyan's like, hold on there, old man. And he's like, old man? He's like, I'm only in my 30s. And she's like, yeah. She says South Kai has twice as many soldiers as Koka. She's like, they're a big empire. They have twice as many. They have 8 generals. Instead of 5, they have 8 generals. So there's that. She's like, they've got a lot more power than you think they do. And she's like, and if Soo-won's afflicted, then that's gonna make things hard. And she's like, and Chagol is someone who will do anything to win. Chagol sounds like he has a very Yuhan mentality as far as combat goes. he's like Yuhan in battle. That he's very unforgiving and merciless. And she establishes that whereas Koka has 5 generals, they have 8 and a bigger army. So it's not going to be easy to just... And she's like, you could use the dragons, but then you're taking them away from Hiryu Palace. That's a problem too. And so she's like, I was raised in a male household and I used to be a general. Dainty speech won't rally the troops. And everybody's like, a general? Yeah, girl can fight in combat. And he's like, that's explains a lot. And she did it. She became his concubine to like rise up the ranks in power. And she's like, I thought that if I did this, I could go to Hiryu Palace, meet the 4 dragon warriors, and share my pain with Soo-won, who shares my bloodline. The line that she says, all the blood I coughed up to get here was for nothing. That line is so good. I was like, oh my God, like, girl, she's just laying it all out there. Like, I love the way that's worded. All the blood I coughed up was for nothing. Oh, it's grim. It's a grim thing. But she wanted to share her pain. That's the thing too. She wanted to share her pain with someone. And she thought Soo-won would be able to relate. Which is very sad too. And so Yona's a little freaky in this volume because she was having a lot of doubts. She's like, I'm very uneasy. She's like, oh, it'll be fine. They'll be back soon enough. Don't jinx this. There were two moments of jinxing. Well, there's 3 moments of jinxing in this. One was this part right here, which is like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll be back soon. I'm like, never say that in a story because it never happens. That was red flag number 1. Number 1, that was that. Then we go to Soo-won calling ZENO there. I'm sorry, but ZENO looking at Soo-won and seeing Hiryu. Nope. Not a fan of it. Not a fan of it at all. That was like his face. It was heartbreaking. I don't like that at all. So, of course, I'm going to take a picture of it. But he tells him he needs to get some sleep. And so Soo-won, he asks ZENO if he wants to be king. He asks ZENO if he would be king. Which is the weirdest thing. Because that seems to go against so much. Because it's like you don't want to have somebody, like your father drove out all the priests. You don't want to rely on the dragons, but you want one of them to be king? Like what? And I guess for that stability, I guess he would think that ZENO would have the know-how of being, well, he says it here. I mean, one of the things is ZENO does have the know-how. He's been around so long. He knows how militaries work throughout the years. So there's that. And he's like, but he says he'd have to train him to rule. And I'm like, you think he'd be great because of his knowledge and experience, but you'd still have to train him? It's like asking somebody that's like been around since the company was established if they need to know how to use the copier. It's like, it's such a weird thing. And then he's like, aren't you interested in the throne? And ZENO's like, not at all. And he's like, what about politics? He's like, not at all. And I think that's one of the reasons why Soo-won, I think that one of the reasons he would go for ZENO is that he is not political. So he wouldn't be easily manipulated. He knows battle. He's been on the battlefield countless times. He would know that. And he's immortal, so he would never die. So he wouldn't have to worry about sickness or anything like that. And ZENO's like, is that how you saw me? And he's like, well, isn't there anyone else that could succeed you? And he's like, well, there's lots of educated people, but they lack a decisive factor. I wanted somebody with a broader vision, unconstrained by their tribe, with a strong vitality and self-discipline. I mean, you're describing Yona and Hawk. You are! Yeah, he's describing Yona and Hawk. If you think about it, somebody that is with a broader vision, well, that's Yona. The girl wants to help her people, and she has a broad worldly vision now that she's been studying abroad the last year. She's gotten some knowledge from being away from the palace, and someone that's unconstrained by their tribe. Well, Hawk gave up being the leader of the Wind Tribe. He gave up the Wind Tribe. He left to go be himself, to be the Dark Dragon, and with strong vitality and self-discipline. Hawk and Yona are like the poster children of that. So you're describing Hawk and Yona when you say people that have those deciding factors. And then he realized an exceptional individual who can't be killed appeared before me. someone who knows history without biases. And he says that they don't have any bias. But ZENO is like, no good could come of an immortal taking the throne. And he said, oh, you'd be fine. And here's the thing that gets me is Soo-won says, you've lived 2,000 years and your spirit hasn't been crushed. And ZENO's like, oh no, honey, it's been crushed a lot. Countless times. And he's like, well, if that's the case, I'm sure those around you would handle things. It's like, ZENO's like, no, you don't understand. Immortality does not protect your heart. You can be heartbroken many, many times. He's like, no. He's like, I could not be king because I've nearly broken down and tried to kill myself many times. It's like, I do not have the mentality to be a king. No. And then ZENO's like, well, what about the young lady? Isn't the young lady a possibility? And Soo-won says, I've never considered it. And ZENO's like, I'm gonna call bullshit. Like, no. ZENO doesn't say anything, but he says, I never considered it. And I'm like, he probably thought she was going to be dead by then, right? But it's so curious. And so he's figured out that ZENO has been around and seen the descendants of the Crimson Dragon King. And he asks how many have been saved from the sickness. And he says, none. And he says, I feel bad for the lad and the fellow. The sickness isn't something that Senju herbs can cure. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell them? He's like, they would still have need to test it for themselves. He's like, they're so gung-ho and they could maybe find some use of it. ZENO's thinking of the bigger, broader picture. He's like, yeah, I could tell them that the Senju herbs aren't going to cure you or the Crimson Sickness, but then that would be depriving them. ZENO's like, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't predict the future. He's like, I'm sure the Senju herbs aren't going to do anything. No. But he's like, I don't want to deprive these two youth from going out and discovering something that could end up benefiting other people down the road. The fact that they could get the Senju herb could help save people down the road. Why discourage them now and prevent something amazing to happen for other people? So he's like, no. He's like, even though it won't cure you, it could cure other people down the road. So why would I deny them that? And he says, your illness reminds me of the other dragons. They're fated to have short lives. And so then I'm like, quit talking about the dragons dying. Because Soo-won's like, oh, the dragons don't have long to live. And he says, it's the cost of unearthly powers and blood. And we say like the dragons and the blood and everything. The cost will be demanded by the next dragon, whether they want it or not. But I'm an ordinary human. True. Then again, the Crimson Dragon became human over the heavens' objections. What an incredible nuisance. So yeah, so basically they established that the Crimson Dragon King, he became human. He became human against the will of the gods. And the punishment was the sickness. And that we've talked about this in the comments, but the theory is that every time the Crimson Dragon King is reincarnated, his soul is reincarnated, then the dragons are reincarnated as well. So as long as Yona's safe, maybe the dragons will be safe. I hope so. We'll talk about the dream, but I don't like it. But he says, I have to defeat the Kai Empire and make Koka a powerful nation that can't be threatened. And until it reaches that ideal state, I cannot die. I love that visual of Soo-won grabbing for the sky. That's such a beautiful visual. I love that. That's such a good shot. And so ZENO's like, you have to sleep. A lack of sleep will shorten your lifespan. And he says, even with all the time you could want, nothing will ever go as you wish. Someday my journey will come to an end. So ZENO thinks he'll die someday. He's like, someday my journey will come to an end. And when it does, I'll try to grant your wish, even if it means turning my back on the gods. That's so curious. So he thinks there will come a time when he's not immortal anymore. So I'm like, ZENO, what we saying? I'm like, ZENO, what do you know? ZENO knows something. Like, why, if he knows that there's going to come a time when he's not going to be immortal anymore, well then why hasn't he tried, why hasn't that happened? Or does he know, what? Like, ZENO, tell us your secrets, sir. Tell us your secrets. So Chagol sends Val to go and get Meinyan. And I don't like the way that Chagol refers to her as a stray cat. I don't like that at all. It could reference something else. I choose not to say it because he just seems like a misogynistic asshole. I don't like Chagol at all. Nah, not feeling it. Especially when Val remembers seeing her and seeing her like with the bruises and stuff all over her face. So the Dromos are the assassination squad of Chagol. They look like a souped up version of Gobi's assassination squad, except they're really creepy. I'm wondering if Hewley will end up fighting them. I wonder if that would be somebody, because he says they're going to send them to the palace to carve our empire's mark onto Kudo. I'm like, I don't know what that means. If he means like to go kill Soo-won, to go attack Yona, what that's going to mean. But I don't know, or kill Meinyan. I don't know. But that squad seems like it's going to be trouble, and I wonder if Hewley's going to end up fighting them. I don't know. But anyway, Val's a handsome dude, and he gets lots of ladies. Lots of ladies come and try to give him things, like good luck charms and everything. But then as he remembers back, he sees the flowing hair of Meinyan. So he has a crush on Meinyan. I'm pretty sure he likes her. Because she, like, I love that she has her gear on, and she has her, like, armor and everything, and her sword over her shoulder, and he's, like, sitting there, like, getting his, like, bandages and everything, and his feet are all bandaged up. He definitely gives me, like, Hawk vibes, and she gives me Soo-won vibes. I'm just saying. I don't know. I would ship, I'm a multi-shipper anyway, so I would ship her with Val, I'd ship her with Yoon, don't ship her with Chagol. I draw the line there, because, yeah, it looks like he beat her, and that's not good. Either he beat her or Shantae had someone beat her up. Not having it. And when she took Ho back and had Val hold on to Ho for her, that was really sad. I didn't like that at all. And Val just doesn't seem like he understands. Again, he seems very much like Hawk. Yeah, and he's like, I know that I don't know what's happening to her in Hiryu Palace, but if I bring her back here, what's going to happen to her here with Chagol? And it's like, yeah, you don't know. So anyway, we're on the edge of Kin Province, which is now Earth Tribe territory. That makes sense why Calgon's there. That all makes sense. But yeah, they're all helping in the mines and everything, of course. And here's red flag number 2. Red flag number 2 is this guy with the mineral guy that's like, oh, I'm so grateful for Lord Gunti. His son was just born, so he must want to go back to Chishan Palace as soon as possible. But he is guarding the border. I'm like, shut up. As soon as those guys started saying that, I was like, you're going to get him hurt. And what ends up happening? And a lot of it is that Gunte's like, all right, let's go into battle. And he's chopping up all the soldiers. But then Calgon, and the thing of it is, Calgon is one of the Kin Province kids. He's one of Kai's people that got, brought into Koka's territory. And he ends up getting hit with the arrows. Like the one that hit right in the back, like in the center of it. And Gunte clearly does not have Hawk's constitution. Hawk could withstand that arrow. But Gunte, I don't want Gunte to die, but the fact that he's incapacitated, I don't like it. And then I love that Hawk shows up, though. Hawk being like, oh, here I am. And the fact that Hawk is the one to save Gunte when they fought, like, in the battle at the Colosseum and everything, like, way back when, makes sense. Makes sense, right? Chapter 210, A Grave Injury, is a beautiful chapter double spread. All of the crows and all the birds next to Yona and Soo-won with their backs facing each other. It's very symbolic. It's very beautiful. It's a great shot. Soo-won, you need to recognize that he needs a hug from Yona and Hawk. He just does. Also, not going to complain about the Hawk fan service, and I'm definitely taking a screenshot of it because Hawk is just a buff man, and Kusanagi has become more brave about showing more of Hawk to us. And I'm like, thank you, Kusanagi. You feed us so well. So yeah. But yeah, help. It's Gunte needs help. And then Hawk just has to show off. I love that he just grabs the bow and arrows and he's like, oh, let me take these. And then he like fires them. It's wonderful. Why are we not surprised? He's like, oh, I'm just a new recruit in the Sky Tribe army. I'm not the Thunder Beast. The one guy keeps getting interrupted where he's like, oh, it's the Thunder Beast. He's like, nope. We're not going to go with that title. I'm just a new Sky Tribe recruit. And Hawk just decimates them because he's the thing. Him grabbing that arrow, I'm like, what the hell, Hawk? Like, grabs an arrow, fires it. He is a monster. An absolute monster. Here's the thing. I feel like Hawk is an accomplished soldier in battle, and the people of Coco will come to recognize that. He doesn't have a tribe he claims as his own. And then Yona, she's like becoming more renowned for her political flair and for being a diplomat. So I'm just like, Hawk and Yona could totally be king and queen. I'm fascinated by the fact that Soo-won does not think that's a possibility. And I wonder if it's because to Soo-won, that would be totally against Yuhan's wishes. Like, Yuhan didn't want his brother to be king. Why would he want the king's daughter to be queen? But I don't think that that's it. Soo-won's interesting in this volume, and I feel like I want to hear Soo-won and Hawk talk, damn it. I want to hear them talk. Just like, Kusanagi, you are making us wait, aren't you? Frustrating. But yeah, Calgon. So, Gunte, our poor boy, his injuries are severe, and he won't be able to fight anymore. And poor lady, her, like, dropping the cup and everything. Like, dropping her tea, her precious tea. And Soo-won being like, oh my god, Gunte is not probably going to be in this battle. I love that moment where they're like, no, his condition's critical, he won't be able to go in battle. And Soo-won just, like, leans his head back, like... I love that. That's such a relatable pose where it's like, well, damn it, what do we do now? And Kishuk's like, we need somebody to get the people riled up and united, and the Earth Tribe's going to be a problem now because Gunte was the one that usually got them all hyped up. Again, I think Hawk is going to be involved in this. But so red flag number 3, Yona's dream, where she's with ZENO, and she opens up the coffins, and there are 3 coffins, which are the 3 of the 4 dragons. And she sees the dragons dying. And she's like, the end of their lives have come. And she's like, oh. She's like, and then you hear Zeno say, look, they too. And it's Meinyan and Soo-won. So, and then everything is on fire. Like, the Hiryu Palace is burning. And she asks where Zeno is. And she asks where everyone is. Now, Hawk's not in that dream. The dream doesn't have Hawk in it. Or Yoon. But it's the dragons and Soo-won and Meinyan. And then she wakes up. And Zeno's super suspicious because he asks her, he's like, did you have a scary dream? And she's like, Zeno, like, she wants to talk to him. And that's when Keisha comes. So I'm like, girl, tell Zeno about your dream. Like, that's, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't want to think about the dragons being hurt, right? And Hiryu Palace burning with Meinyan and Soo-won. And so Kishuk is worried because Soo-won's not resting like he's supposed to be, and he insists that he's going to go into the battlefield. And so Kishuk says, I want you to stay by his side during the battle in South Kai, and if the worst occurs and something happens, I want you to take command of the army. And Yona's like, excuse me? What? But he wants the dragons there is what it is. He's like, if something happens to Soo-won, I want you and the dragons there to back everything up just in case. But I'm like, I wonder if she's worried. That going into this battle, I think that Yona's dream is she's worried that going into this battle is going to kill the dragons and and that Meinyan and Soo-won will die while they're in battle. I think that that's the case. I don't want to think about the possibility of the dragons, like, going through, like, dying and their powers transferring to a new dragon. I don't want to even think about it. Nope. Gonna take that Kusanagi and push it as far away as possible. I am in denial. The Taurus in me is in stark denial. No, thank you. No, thank you. Not gonna think about that. Out of sight, out of mind. I'm just gonna ignore that chapter. And then we have the bonus chapter where Soo-won goes to visit. It's so freaking cute. It's so cute. They all try to, like, give him the most hospitality. They, like, bury him in sheep and llamas. And then they give him, like, baths. I love that they're like, naked bonding time. It's so cute. And Soo-won has his hair in, like, a little ponytail. It's so sweet. I love that they're like, let me tell you about the girl that Hawk likes. And Hawk's like, again, Hawk is, like, 13 at the time. So Soo-won, they're, like, 13-year-old boys. It's really cute. And he's like, my favorite, though, is that all of them, including ZENO, old ZENO snuck in to get some, are all drinking out of a pot. There's a place I've been to in Memphis, in the U.S., and they have, like, a big bucket, and it's an alcoholic drink, but it's a bucket, and they have like 8 straws coming out of it, and you're supposed to share it with a bunch of people, and that's exactly what this looks like. And I love that the thing that Moondock says, my family has said before when I was little, they're like, this is an adult beverage. You're not allowed to have it yet. And then Hawk was drinking on it. It's great. And I love Moondock running after him. It's so freaking cute. But I love that Soo-won, he's like, are you an adult then? And Zeno's like, despite appearances, yes. I love the little confirmation that Zeno and Soo-won have met long before the Water Tribe arc, long before all of that. It's so freaking cute, right? I love that page. I'm going to take a picture of it. But yeah. And then the form of hospitality are pillow fights, saying that whoever can stuff the Thunder Beast inside will receive a Hawk hug pillow. And so I love that Soo-won's like, it was an intense show of hospitality. And then Yona's like, okay, so whose hug pillow did Hawk wind up being? I love that she's beckoning Hawk over. She's like, tell me, did you really become Soo-won's hug pillow? Tell me all about it. Like, I feel like Kusanagi knows that there are a lot of Hawk and Soo-won shippers. And so she's like, here you go. You know what? You guys have been, you've suffered a lot these last few volumes. Here you go. Right? Oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, So there's so many questions. I feel like Kusanagi is still, there's things that in volume 37 through 40, which are the ones we have left caught up with, we still don't know fully about Soo-won and Ill's conversation. I want to know more about that. Soo-won and Hawk still need to talk it out. I feel that's not going to happen until after the whole Sinju Herb thing. Even if there's even a resolution of that, they may get drug into battle and we don't know. The whole thing with Val and the Dramas and Meinyan, there's that whole deal. There's Yona's dream, which I don't like. And there's the whole thing with that and going on the battlefield with Soo-won. I'm like, Kusanagi, what are we doing, honey? What are we doing? Are you about to take us through the ringer with you? I think you are. So next week we will not have Yona of the Dawn. I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to wait until the official release comes out. It's supposed to come out October 4th. And so I'm going to probably read it that night so I can have it ready for the 7th. So I'm probably going to read it that night when it comes out. But we'll just hold off for now. And so next week there will be something else. There'll be an OVA in its place, which is something that I've been excited to watch for a while. And I've never had a chance to really fit it in anywhere. And when I saw there was going to be a week that I'd have break in between 36 and 37, I thought, oh, that's perfect. I've wanted to watch this OVA for a long time. We'll just sandwich it in there and it'll be good. So that'll be next week. And then the following week will be volume 37. So, and then from there, I was going to tell you all, from there, I looked it up and volume 38 is not coming out in the English translation until March of next year. Sad face. So I didn't want to wait until March to read volume 38. And so Discord and fellow patrons have been like, there's other chapters that have come out. You could read up until volume. And the covers, here's the thing. I was hesitating, but the covers for volumes 37 or 38, 39, and 40 have come out. So I'm like, okay, since the Japanese covers are out, let's just do it. Let's just read. We'll read the fan translations. And then I'm definitely going to support Kusanagi when the official, because I like the little afterword that she has. I like the afterwords and her giving us like insight as a mangaka. Once those come out, I will definitely, and she has like, you know, the cover page and all that. I definitely will support her when those actually come out. But in the meantime, we'll just read volume to volume. And maybe by the time I get to volume 40, there'll be enough for volume 41 out. We'll see. We shall see, but I'm very curious to know your thoughts below. Please no spoilers, but I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. And yes, I will be back not next week, but the week after with volume 37 of Yona of the Dawn.